Morphemes are the basic unit of analysis in morphology, and they are also the basic unit of a word as well. Most native speakers of English would understand how many morphemes are involved in the following words, which are in front of you on the screen. For example, we have the words unwipe, head cover, and schooling. And they could be divided into several meaningful units. If you have a look, unwipe could be divided into un and wipe. Head cover could be divided into head and cover, and schooling into school and ing. These various pieces of these words are called morphemes. Or in other words, morphemes are the minimal meaningful units that we use to form words, which together form the words. We could have more examples. The words like reopened and tourist, they consist of three morphemes. For example, reopened consists of re, open, and ed. Ed morpheme which changes the tense of this word. Then in tourist we got tour, ist, and then plural s at the end. So these are three different morphemes used in these words. The morphemes could be of various kinds. Two major kinds include free and bound morphemes. Free morphemes are those which can stand alone without any help from any other word or morpheme, and they independently could convey their meanings. And they do not need anything to be attached with them. As I said earlier, they also act as roots. The examples could be the words like boy, girl, cat, open, tour. They are free morphemes. They can stand alone and can convey certain meanings in English language. Free morphemes could be divided into lexical or content morphemes and functional morphemes. Lexical morphemes are those which involve basic content words which carry the major meanings in a language. And this includes the words like nouns, adjectives, verbs, as I said earlier, which carry the content of a language, and they have their definitions, clearly described definitions in the language. We can always add new, and people keep on adding new lexical morphemes into a language, and they are probably the most easily and quickly formulated forms of morphemes in any language, and that's why we call them open class of words. In comparison, we have another kind of free morphemes which is known as functional morphemes. These are grammatical words and not the content words, and they perform certain functions, grammatical functions in a sentence, and when they are put together with other words, they actually changes their grammatical category. They consist largely of functional words in language. For example, conjunctions, prepositions, articles, and pronouns. And they perform these functions when they are put together, when they do have their own independent existence, but their major meanings, frankly speaking, are conveyed with the help of other words in sentences. However, as I said earlier, to understand it as a free morpheme, we could say that they convey a certain grammatical function, and they do have their independent meaning. For example, the words and, on, we do have their understanding in our minds, and we associate certain meanings with them even when we listen to them independently or separately. As I said earlier, in a language, in the major functions of a language, their complete or comprehensive meanings only emerge when they are used in sentences. Because there are very few in all languages, and we hardly add any new these functional morpheme in language. They are considered to be close a closed class of words because they are not added up frequently. We have bound morphemes which cannot stand alone, and they only convey their meanings when they are put together with other words, usually with free morphemes. For example, in the word cats, the morpheme s, which is showing the plural nature of the word, is a bound morpheme because s independently do not convey any meaning. We have further examples like unless and the words are or est, which are used to convey the adjective forms of various adjectives, the category or degree of adjective. They could be the typical examples of these kinds of morphemes. Bound morphemes could also be divided into derivational morphemes. Derivational morphemes are those which, when they are put together with other words, they form a different grammatical category of the words. For example, they change the definition of the word or its class. You could see in front of you the word good. If we add a ness with the good, it turns into goodness. So the category of good changes into another category, right? An adjective changes into a noun. Same is the case with care and full. When they are together, they become careful. Inflectional morphemes are used not to produce new words, rather they add to the meanings while remaining in the same category. They are used to show, for example, the number, the singularity or plurality of words, and they also used to show the tense of a word. In this image, you could see various kind of morphemes and some ways to categorize those morphemes. It's different from what I have explained right now. This is another way to look at morphemes. You could divide morphemes into lexical and grammatical, and lexical morphemes could further be divided into free and bound. In free lexical morphemes, we have base words, which are open class words, including noun, verb, adjective, adverbs. And then we have bound morphemes, bound lexical morphemes, which are affixes, derivational affixes, and this include prefixes like un, infix like damn, or suffix like able. Then we have grammatical morphemes, and we got free and bound categories of grammatical morphemes. In free grammatical morphemes, we have function words, which is a closed class of free morphemes, and it includes pronouns, prepositions, and auxiliaries. And then we have bound grammatical morphemes, and this include inflections, for example, gender, tense, aspect, etc. English has only 8 inflectional morphemes in form of which are used with nouns, verbs, and adjectives. Allomorphs could be considered the various phonetic variations within the sound of a morpheme. For example, if you look at the words in front of you, dogs, cats, and horses, the last morpheme at the end of these words, when you speak these words, it is pronounced differently. However, it conveys the same meaning of the number, that is the plural form of these words. But the sound changes. This variation in sound of the same morpheme is considered, all the variations are roughly defined as allomorphs.